If you open up the average professional's calendar right now, it usually looks like a chaotic game of Tetris.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got these solid, brightly colored blocks stacked back to back, stretching from like 8 in the morning until 6 at night. And there's a very real societal expectation where, if you show someone that packed, colorful screen, they nod with this almost reverent respect.
Right, like it's a badge of honor.
Exactly. The implication is totally clear. A full calendar equals a busy person, and a busy person equals an important person.
Well, and we've fundamentally tied our professional bandwidth to our moral worth.
Yeah.
We look at that wall of color and immediately equate it with high status, or at the very least, high productivity. But if you actually analyze the output of a schedule like that, the correlation completely breaks down.
It totally falls apart.
Yeah. Because when your day is divided into these 30-minute increments of constant context switching, your cognitive friction just goes through the roof. I mean, you spend more energy transitioning between tasks than actually executing them.
Which is why that colorful calendar stops looking like a trophy case and starts looking like a massive bottleneck.
Yes.
We're operating under a standard of working that is basically designed for an industrial assembly line, not modern knowledge work.
It is the literal definition of being captured by your own schedule, right?
Yep.
Treating time as this container that simply must be filled with activity, regardless of the actual value of that activity.
Right, right. And for today's deep dive, we are tackling that head on. We have a mission for you listening right now to help you transition from being a schedule-addicted servant to what we are calling a time billionaire.
I love that term.
It's great, right. And our source material for this is a fascinating framework from an article titled Break Free, Reclaim Your Time and Productivity. It's written by Chillstar08, who brings a really grounded perspective as a digital freedom coach, a wife, a mom, and a grandmother.
And her perspective is highly relevant because she systematically dismantles that traditional 40-hour work week model. She replaces that endurance-based grind with a system designed for personal sovereignty, a structure that essentially alternates between highly intense, concentrated sprints of work and then prolonged periods of deliberate, radical rest.
Okay, let's unpack this because before we can completely restructure how we map out our weeks, we have to understand the fundamental error in how we view our schedules. I mean, why do we willingly submit to this calendar Tetris in the first place?
It really comes down to a fundamental misunderstanding of the resource we're managing. And what's fascinating here is how the author frames a relationship with time. There is a specific phrase in the text that honestly serves as the linchpin for this entire philosophy, and it's that time is a one-way burn rate.
A one-way burn rate. Wow, that really changes the entire calculation, doesn't it?
It changes everything.
Because, we obsess over our financial burn rate like companies track every single dollar to ensure they don't run out of runway, but we leave our time runway completely unmonitored.
Exactly, because we subconsciously treat time as cyclical. We tell ourselves, oh, there's always tomorrow or, next week or next quarter. But contrast time with capital. If you make a bad investment and lose your money, the market provides opportunities to earn it back.
Right, money comes and goes.
Right, money moves bidirectionally. But time only moves forward. Once a minute is expended, it is permanently destroyed. You can accumulate massive financial wealth, but if you are operating with a totally bankrupt time ledger, the author points out that you've basically made a catastrophic trade.
Yeah, we've been trained to treat our time like a bucket that just has to be filled to the brim. And if there is empty space in the bucket, like an open slot on the calendar, we feel this overwhelming cultural guilt.
Oh, the guilt is so real.
So real. So we pour something into it, usually a meeting that could have been an email or an administrative task that doesn't actually move the needle. Think about it like a house. If you leave your calendar open by default, it's like leaving your front door wide open in a bustling city. I mean, of course, chaos is going to wander right in.
That's a perfect way to look at it. The author defines that open door policy as the corporate standard or the social standard. When your door is wide open, your daily operations are dictated by inbox pings and external demands. You are effectively letting other people's emergencies masquerade as your priorities.
And that applies even if you are self-employed. Like, you might have a sleek home office, a brand new MacBook, and, the best noise-canceling headphones on the market. But if you are letting external notifications dictate your workflow, you are still operating on a factory floor.
Exactly.
You are prioritizing duration like how long you sit at the desk over the actual results you generate. You're just punching a digital clock.
And the alternative to that is the sovereign standard. Sovereignty in this context means you dictate the flow of the resource. You decide in advance what outcomes matter. You carve out the non-negotiable blocks of time first, and literally every other request has to negotiate for whatever bandwidth is left.
Which usually means saying no.
Yes, statistically, most of those requests will be rejected. And this raises an important question. What scoreboard are you actually optimizing for? Are you optimizing for hours logged or for tangible results created?
Man, that's heavy. And when people finally recognize they've been playing the wrong game, when they see that their open door policy has led to total burnout, their first instinct is almost always extreme.
Oh, 100%. The pendulum swings hard.
Right. They look at that chaotic, overstuffed calendar and think, I just need to delete everything. I'm going to drop half my commitments, move to a cabin, cancel all my projects, and just embrace a perfectly empty schedule.
Yeah, it's a very predictable reaction from complete cognitive overload to extreme minimalism.
But the author makes a brilliant observation here, which is that extreme minimalism as a reaction to burnout is fundamentally hollow. Like if you just strip your life down to almost nothing, you aren't actually achieving sovereignty. You're just bored, but with a highly organized, aesthetically pleasing calendar.
You've just color-coded your boredom.
Exactly. You end up shrinking your ambitions just to fit this minimalist ideal.
Because extreme minimalism operates solely on subtraction. It only asks the question, what can I remove to reduce my stress?
Which doesn't actually help you build anything meaningful. The true solution proposed in the text isn't extreme minimalism. It's a concept called intentional intensity. You don't shrink your monumental goals, you shrink your distractions so that those massive goals actually have the oxygen to breathe.
That's beautifully said.
Thanks. I mean, it's not about owning fewer ambitions. It's about tolerating fewer excuses. You select a very small number of targets, but then you pursue them with overwhelming force.
And the transition from a minimalist retreat to intentional intensity requires a real shift in how we measure work. We have to completely separate duration-based work from intensity-focused work.
Right. Break that down for us.
So duration-based work asks, did you put in your 8 hours today? It rewards endurance, physical presence, and, frankly, the appearance of suffering.
The grind.
Yeah, the grind. But intensity-focused work asks a very different question. What metric did you actually move today? It rewards clarity, deep focus, and honestly, the courage to ignore minor fires.
I really want to highlight that word courage because it actually takes bravery to close your inbox and ignore the minor fires, knowing people might be annoyed, because you trust that the deep work you are doing is more valuable.
And that trust is mathematically justified, by the way. 2 hours of ruthless, distraction-free focus where you are, say, mapping out a new product line or overhauling a failing system that can generate a higher return on investment than 2 weeks of scattered reactive busyness.
Oh, absolutely.
The objective isn't to work less just for the sake of laziness. The objective is to work so deliberately that you render the 40-hour desk chaining totally obsolete.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because talking about intentional intensity is great in theory, but theory doesn't usually survive contact with a Tuesday morning.
Right.
So how do we actually map this onto a real week? The author provides a very specific architectural framework for this, right? The sprint insanity strategy.
Yes, this is the mechanism that turns the philosophy into an actionable schedule. The architecture of sprint insanity relies on a precise asymmetrical ratio, a 48-hour sovereign sprint, immediately followed by a 5-day retirement.
Break down the exact mechanics of that 48-hour sprint for us. Like, what does it actually look like in practice?
Okay, so the sovereign sprint is your engine room. It's 48 hours of power, typically scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, or maybe Wednesday and Thursday. During this window, you operate in a state of zero distraction.
Wait, zero? Like none at all?
Zero. And the text is completely uncompromising on this parameter. Not low distraction, not fewer tabs open, zero. The physical smartphone is literally placed in another room. System notifications are disabled. You are structurally unreachable to everyone except the version of yourself you are trying to build.
So we are talking zero administrative maintenance, like no checking email just to clear the notifications.
Correct. No admin, no team check-ins, no busy work. These 48 hours are aggressively protected for deep work alone. strategic thinking, writing, building, solving complex problems. And this engine is governed by what the author calls the rule of three.
The rule of three.
Yeah, before the sprint begins, you define exactly three non-negotiable outcomes.
Just to clarify, are we talking about three broad goals like work on the website or three specific tasks?
They must be defined completed outcomes. So not work on the website, but finalize and publish the new checkout page. Not do some writing, but complete the first drafts of 4 podcast scripts. You pick exactly 3, not 10 things you hope to get to. 3.
Wow, that takes discipline.
It does. And every single block of effort inside those 48 hours is bent toward those specific outcomes. You engineer deep work blocks, typically 90 to 120-minute periods of pure undivided attention on just one of those 3 targets.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here on behalf of the listener, because this sounds incredible if you live alone on a mountain. But for someone with a manager or clients in different time zones or, a team that relies on them to unblock projects, the idea of just vanishing for 48 hours sounds like a really quick path to getting fired.
Sure.
How does a normal professional navigate the logistics of going completely dark?
It's definitely the most common friction point because our entire economy is built on the expectation of constant availability. But we have to look at the mechanism of how we communicate. The author uses a powerful analogy here. You have to treat deep work like surgery.
Oh, I like that. Expand on that. How does the surgery analogy solve the communication problem?
Think about the logistical prep required for a complex medical operation. A surgeon doesn't just spontaneously decide to operate while they're, running errands at the grocery store.
Right.
They don't take quick calls from vendors while holding a scalpel. And they certainly don't leave the operating room door open for people to just pop in and ask quick questions.
Hey, doc. Got a minute?
Exactly. It would be absurd. They clear the schedule. They communicate to the staff that they will be unavailable. They prep the tools, they scrub in, and they give the operation their absolute, unfragmented attention.
So the key isn't just disappearing, it's the preparation of the environment and the communication beforehand. You establish an asynchronous system, like you tell your team, hey, I'm going into a deep work block for these 2 days to solve this massive problem for us. Here is the protocol if the building literally catches fire, but otherwise I will review all messages on Friday morning.
Precisely. You don't abandon your responsibilities, you compartmentalize them. If a task or a request doesn't directly advance one of those 3 non-negotiable outcomes, it does not enter the operating room. It gets parked outside. And what most people find is that like 90% of the emergencies that pop up on a Tuesday resolve themselves by Friday if you simply aren't available to handhold the process.
That is so true. Okay, so we've executed the surgery, we've utilized the rule of 3, protected our attention, and essentially packed an entire month's worth of needle-moving progress into this highly compressed 48-hour window. The sprint is over. Now we have to figure out what to do with the remaining 5 days of the week.
Right.
Which transitions into the second half of the strategy, the 5-day retirement.
Yes. This is the sanity component of the sprint insanity equation.
And this is where Chillstar 08's background really anchors the philosophy in reality, because she is a wife, a mother, a grandmother. She understands that life outside of work requires profound energy.
Absolutely.
She emphasizes that this 5-day retirement is not about collapsing on the couch because you physically destroyed yourself during the sprint. It's not about binge-watching television in a state of absolute numbness just to recover.
No, not at all. It is a fundamental shift in nervous system regulation. It is active rest, not just burnout recovery.
And active rest requires true presence. It means sitting with your family or playing with your kids or grandkids without that phantom vibration syndrome where you reach for your phone every 3 minutes out of habit.
Ugh, we all do that.
We really do. But this means going for a physical walk in nature so your body can actually remember what the physiological state of being unrushed feels like. It's about embodying what people call a soft life, but doing it without guilt because it was genuinely earned through dangerous effectiveness during those 2 days.
And, we also have to address the logistical reality of those 5 days, because this is where the shallow work actually gets processed.
Right, because the emails didn't actually magically disappear.
Right, they're still there. So during this 5-day retirement, you are still handling light operations. You run the admin, you do the email follow-ups, you take the team alignment meetings, you handle the maintenance work of your life and business. But the psychological difference is vital. You refuse to let those shallow tasks dominate your identity.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. Your core value was established during the sprint. The rest of the week is basically just keeping the lights on.
It's operating as if you are already semi-retired. You haven't retired from making an impact, but you have retired from the chaos of the daily grind. You are stepping off the factory floor.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these 5 days of sanity are not just a reward, they are the fuel for the next sprint.
Yeah.
It creates this closed-loop ecosystem. During your 5-day downshift, you finally have the cognitive bandwidth to read, and not just, skimming articles in your phone, but deeply reading books that challenge your industry assumptions. You have time for unpressured creative thought,
You can let your mind actually wander, but with intent. You can whiteboard ideas without the immediate pressure of having to execute them that exact same afternoon.
because that unstructured time is where the massive insights are generated. Downregulating your nervous system gives your next 48-hour sprint much sharper teeth. If you attempt to sprint constantly, you simply run out of quality inputs.
You burn out the engine?
Precisely. The sanity phase prevents intellectual stagnation. You gather the raw materials during the 5 days, and you refine them in the forge during the 2 days.
It's just a brilliant, sustainable equilibrium. Ruthless, unapologetic intensity for 2 days, followed by deliberate, spacious calm for 5. So what does this all mean for you listening today? When you zoom out and look at the architecture we've explored, the biggest takeaway is that the solution to your overwhelmed life is not another software tool. You do not need a new color coding system for your calendar blocks.
The better tool just helps you play the wrong game faster.
Wow, exactly. You need a new standard. You need to deeply internalize the thermodynamics of your life. That time is a one-way burn rate, and you have to structurally stop trading it for shallow maintenance tasks that will be completely forgotten by next month. By adopting the sovereign standard, defending your 48-hour sprint, and fiercely protecting your 5-day active retirement, you actually transition into the reality of a time billionaire.
But stepping into that reality requires a significant amount of audacity. It requires the courage to look at the professional world with all its expectations of constant availability and boldly state, "My time belongs to me." So I want to leave you with a challenge as you look at your upcoming week. Imagine if you were suddenly forced by some unavoidable external circumstance to compress your entire week's worth of actual needle-moving progress into just tomorrow and the next day.
Applying the rule of 3 right under pressure.
Exactly. What are the 3 non-negotiable outcomes you would choose to focus on? If you could only move 3 things forward, what are they? And perhaps the more uncomfortable question to sit with, if you stripped away the 40 hours of scattered reactive tasks, the meetings, the endless inbox sorting, what are the big intimidating goals you are currently using your busyness to hide from?
Oh man, that is the real question holding us back. Because once you stop playing Tetris with your schedule, you have no choice but to face the life you're actually building. Remember, an open calendar is just an open door to other people's chaos. It's time to close it, lock it, and finally decide who and what actually earns the right to step inside.